This recollection is from the tapes that was recorded by John Brandt, a talkative old farmer, recalling a time 70 years in his past. And he remembers many of these miracle trains.
Well, I was born in 1874.
So I guess Dr. Dodge treated people and doctored by going into sort of a trance.
He had to go into the trance. Somebody had to write for him, you know. Because they wrote it down, they kept most of those things, and then they had a record.
Oh, who did most of his writing? Did his wife do that?
Well, when I was there, Dr. Deckler's wife was there. She was about 19 years old. She was there 1 year.
And using words when he was in a trance that he wouldn't have known had he been awake.
That's right. He didn't. He couldn't spell those words. He was normal, like any other person, only when he was in a trance.
But when he was in a trance, he could.
He could spell them, and he could get them the man's address or woman, whoever she was. They kept a record of that. Then they didn't have to send the hair anymore.
Oh.
Just once.
Did they send anything else besides hair?
No, they had to get hair. They made out a prescription for medicine, and he got it in Chicago.
But I mean, could he take anything besides hair, or was that what he wanted to identify them?
Now, when Dr. Dodge doctored that man that had a lizard in him in Chicago, he prescribed the medicine, and then they wrote back, and they said they didn't have it. The drugstore couldn't find it. He wrote back, and he told them what it was, what shelf it was on, in the back, and they found it.
Oh, for goodness sakes. What do you remember about this lizard? I think you told me something about that.
Well, Dr. Dodge told him how much a day. I can't remember how much it was. He didn't have to take it but twice. And the lizard would pass in pieces through his mouth. And it did. The third day, he was all a new man. He had all the money he had. At that time, didn't know very much about operations. He seemed to have something that gave him awful pain, just awful. Just moved around on him. And if he eat heavy, it sort of quieted down.
Oh.
And they couldn't make it out what it was. Well, the man told them it was a live lizard. He told them he got it. He was in the Civil War. It was awful dry. He laid down and he drank out water out of a creek or a ditch or something like that. And that lizard was very small. Those things don't happen very often. They live, but that lizard did live in him. It got so big, it got 5 or 6 pounds. It was a pretty big lizard. The man got so poor he could hardly walk anymore. Whatever he ate, the lizard took. Everything, you know. He didn't have any strength, and he was a poor man. And after he got rid of the lizard, the doctor used to get a letter from him every day.
Yeah.
Every day for, I'd say, nearly a year. The doctor could tell you things. People would come here there. A lot of people had their 4 years.
4 years.
He died.
Oh, he died while you were there?
No, he died the last year in the fall when I was there. And then I, of course, was out of a job and out of a home.
Did you work for him?
I worked for him. I went to school there.
Went to school there?
Yeah, and I'd done all his work. He had 3 cows, a team of horses, and some chickens, about an acre of garden, and he had about everything in that garden that you could think of.
Oh.
Nothing comes to the end of the store that he didn't have. We raised it, and I had to tend it, because he wanted it. He liked it. He liked to live out of the garden. And I had to raise chickens, so he supposed. The doctor told him he didn't have any work for a man, that I done all his chores and everything. The man, he begged pretty hard. It was cold, 10 degrees below zero probably. The snow was deep. So the man said, hey, you got a pile of wood out there. Couldn't I cut that wood up and get a little money that way? And the doctor said, I expect to have that sawed up, a big saw. But if you want to saw it up with a butt saw or an axe, you can have the job if you want it.
Oh,
And he took the job. I don't remember how much it was. It wasn't very much money. I don't think it was over $5. But it took him better than a week to do it. And he worked from daylight to dark to do it. I followed him out through a snow snower one day to find my jackknife I had lost. Lost about a week, about 4 foot of snow, back of the barn. Us boys that played there one Sunday, schoolboys, you know. They'd come there and sometimes I'd go to their place. Anyway, the reason he got me that knife, I had to build a fire every morning in the kitchen. They wouldn't allow me to use kerosene because they said it was too dangerous. So I took a butcher knife. Of course, a lot of those old boards in there had nails in them. And I ran that butcher knife right in there. And his wife told me, she said, "Can't use my butcher knife anymore. I can't cut bread with it." Well, he went to town and he got me one of those pocket knives. Well, I thought I was a millionaire. But that knife, you know,
oh, you did?
it's got a great big blade on it like that, you know? Regular old chopping blade. I thought the world of it. She discovered again that I was using the bread knife. And she got after me pretty hard. She said, "Did you trade your pocket knife off or sell it?" "No," I said. "I didn't." "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure." "Well, what did you do with it?" "I don't know what I did. Just don't know what I did with it. Done with it. I wanted it one morning and was gone. Can't remember where I could have laid it down or lost it. I never thought about romping around one Sunday on the straw stack, turning somersaults on there with the boys. Well, it snowed about 3 days once, 4 days, just continually. They had about 4 foot of snow right on the level. So then his wife asked him in the trance where my knife was. And it didn't take him over a second and he found it. She said, "You tell us where it is." "No," Dr. Dodge says, "you can't find it." "I gotta go get it." "No," she says, "you can't go because the snow is so deep and you're sweating. You can't go." Well, he says, "You can't find it." But he was bound to go, so we put a big overcoat on him, and he wallered down through that snow, through the barn, north of the barn, well, I'd say about 5 or 6 rods back away from the barn where the straw stack was. It was all covered with snow, all buried. He walked real fast, and I tried to jump into his tracks, follow him. All at once, he climbs up on that straw stack, and he stopped right dead still, and he gets down on his knees, and he puts his hand down, 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 and you know what? He comes up with my knife.
You found it, huh?
He sure
Did you go
did.
into a trance almost every day then?
Well, usually in the forenoon, but not in the afternoon. He was too tired. He couldn't make it.
Did he go into more than one in the forenoon?
Well, sometimes too, if there was something really serious.
In other words, you might treat 7 or 8 patients in half a day.
I didn't know him until he was old, but when he was younger, they said that he could go into a trance in the afternoons too. There was something close by he couldn't get in his old age. But if it was something, maybe somebody around home close there, it wouldn't take him 4 or 5 minutes. It didn't take him over 3 minutes. No, it didn't take him over 1 minute. He'd take off his coat and everything, and he'd sit down like this, and all at once you'd think and then he'd start.
He'd stiffen out.
Oh yes, you'd think he'd tear his arms off right to pieces. And when he came out of it, it was just about the same way. And he didn't know one word that he said when he came out of it.
Could he come out of trances by himself?
They'd have to tell him, "Now that's all, you can quit now." Always told him. Otherwise, he'd wait, I suppose, for somebody to tell him. Someone had to talk to him and read the letters to him. Otherwise, he couldn't read it.
Couldn't read.
No. During the trance, his eyes was closed all the time. No, he couldn't read. Well, he could read, but he didn't take the letter at all. All he took was a lock of hair the first time. And then after that, they agreed whoever it was and what they wanted and just read it to him. I know that he couldn't walk, sometimes for 10 minutes after he got out of one of those trances. He'd just sit there, sweating. He was just exhausted, just like somebody had just been working him, just as hard as he could work. Pretty hard on
Departments at all, never helped them solve a crime.
They only had one police in Albany and one in Monroe at that time. I can remember him. They called him Hoppentrop, big grizzly fellow.
That was in Monroe.
In Monroe it was. Well, you know, it was the next year I worked for a neighbor. There was a neighbor there, Charlie Williams, and he gave me $4 a month. He thought I ought to do a man's work. Well, I couldn't do it. He pitched the hay on the wagons, and I was supposed to load it. And when they went to the barn, well, he set the sport, and I was supposed to mow it. Well, it just about killed me. I couldn't hardly do it. At that time, we had a different school. I went to school in the winter. I couldn't go in the summer. After the crops was all in, I could go to school. But I couldn't get any wages then, see. I stayed with him that winter. And then I went to school. I had to walk 2.5 miles, too. He milked 14 cows by hand. I had to milk 7, and he had to milk 7. Every time he'd get in trouble with a cow, she kicked him or something, he turned her over to me. And I tell you, I missed Dr. Dodge.